Hello again, and welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. I'm Eric Sfiligoj, editor of CropLife magazine, here this week with a special guest, our senior editor, Jackie Pucci. Jackie, welcome to CropLife Retail Week.
Thanks, Eric.
I was going to say, I know we were talking off camera before we came on. It has been several years. I think it was pre-COVID days since we've actually gotten together for a video chat. But well, how you been in that time? And share with our viewers a little bit about what's been going on with you here in the COVID days.
Everything's been pretty well. I'm here at home. I've been covering the whole bear situation, the force majeure, and the herbicide shortages, looking to this season. So that's what's going on right now.
Okay, well, that's part of the reason I actually brought you on this week, because again, back on February 11th, our friends at Bayer did do the force majeure, as you mentioned, basically saying that they weren't certain that the glyphosate supplies will be readily available for everyone who may want them here in the 22 season. And I know you've been following that, talking to folks at Bayer, and maybe share with our viewers what you have found out recently about what's going on with the situation.
So I was talking to Bill Johnson the other day. He's from Purdue, lead scientist there, and he was saying that the whole herbicide shortage thing is kind of like COVID, because it changes so fast and the stories change depending on who you talk to. So it seems like an accurate analogy, because I felt like it's similar story here. From one retailer to the next, you hear different things about supplies. Some say they, will not be impacted, because Bayer has said that this isn't impacting their branded supplies of Roundup here in the US significantly. So they're pretty well set for the season. They prepared, but then other ones will say we're very limited in our area, and we're going to have to plow fields, and you just kind of hear all different things. And so I guess it's not totally clear on how things are going to go this season, but he did say that, well, at least in Indiana, the county meetings that he's been going to for the past couple of months, that he feels that about less than 2/3 have the inventory that they need for the season. And spring in southern Indiana, I think, starts in about a week and a half or so. So he's said he's very concerned, and that, it just seems that people don't have those plan B, plan C like they should. So it's a lot of concerns, because the secondary choices, or some of the alternative products, are also in short supply. 2,4-D clethodim, atrazine. It's not that, and also the prices are so much higher too. So
sure. Yeah, I was going to say, I know a lot of folks, I've talked to a couple of retailers at events I've been at recently, and they seem to think that the go-to, if they can't get the Roundup, would be to go to Liberty. But I also understand there's issues there as well.
Yes. And it's doubled in price to over $100 a gallon. And everything else is up 10 to 30%. So yeah, I haven't heard it's kind of the same story with Liberty too, that, what Bill Johnson told me too was that BSF has told retailers in Indiana, I don't know if this is in other states, I have reached out to BSF to get further details on this, but they haven't answered yet. But so BSF told retailers in Indiana that the amount of Liberty that they will provide to them will be 80% of the average of what they've bought from them over the past 3 years. So that could work well for a retailer that's been like a heavy Liberty user for the past 3 years. But if they just recently ordered, last year got a ton, and then the previous 2 years not much, or something like that, then it wouldn't be great, considering it's an average. But yeah, and he also said that he doesn't see that the respray program will be possible, considering the volumes. Like if now when they provide that, or the past that they have provided that, if something didn't work out well during their first spray or whatever, they would respray. But he doesn't think that might happen this year. So
interesting. Okay, and have you said you have reached out to BASF for some comment. Have you talked to the folks at Bayer at all throughout this whole situation?
I did, back in the days after the force majeure, but there wasn't a lot of it was just putting out these kind of vague statements about, there's not going to be impact on the branded supplies here in the US, and that it's formulated third party supplies that would be impacted. But it did happen. The whole manufacturing failure that they talked about happened in Luling, and they said it would take 3 months to fix.
Right.
So it was just, they weren't giving you a whole lot more detail on that. I was like, are you guys gonna have a press conference? They're like, no. So I don't know. I'm hoping at Commodity Classic, we will get some more information on that. But I wanted to add too that Kevin Bradley also mentioned, so, considering
Kevin Bradley being who?
Yeah, the Missouri, he's from the University of Missouri, lead scientist there. He was saying that determine the best way to use the herbicides that you do have for the good of your overall weed management program. So targeting your worst weeds first, taking every opportunity to make the most out of the herbicides that you do spray or that you intend to spray. And that, in other words, timing is going to be very important this year, as important as ever, as well as using like correct nozzles and adjuvants and all of those pieces and parts. So
yeah, it ought to be interesting. Like you say, you mentioned the fact that Commodity Classic's coming up next week, and I know you and I will both be attending that. I know with that event, normally it's usually held a little earlier, but I guess this year, since it's taking place in New Orleans, they were trying to avoid any crossover with the Mardi Gras. So they were holding it a little later than they normally do. But at the event, I know I normally get a lot of good intelligence regarding what kind of planting intentions are going forward into the upcoming growing season. The mix of corn versus soybean is always interesting. And again, depending on that also helps, that determines a little bit of what kind of weed pressures we may be looking at in fields as we go through the season. So, and again, you couple that, of course, with all the stuff I've been hearing lately about fertilizer prices and the fact that, with them going up so high that a lot of growers who were originally considering corn are maybe now going to switch over to soybean instead because it's a little less crop nutrient intensive as a crop. Again, the crop report, I think, comes out from USDA later here in March, and it'll be real interesting to see what the projections are. I know early on they were saying, about 1 million more acres of corn being planted, 95 million acres. Soybean was expected to be down about 1 million, but again, with everything going on in the market with prices here in the US, and of course on the international stage as well, which I'll get to here in a moment. It'll be interesting to see how things play out. But again, we'll find out more market intelligence next week when we're Commodity Classic, and I'm sure we'll be able to share that with our viewers here in the next couple of videos upcoming. So
good.
Yep. So anyhow, I did mention the situation internationally. Of course, one of the things that's been going on is the Ukraine-Russian conflict that is currently ongoing as we're recording this. And I know that there's been more deaths, attacks on nuclear power plants that's been taking place, and it sounds like a very messy situation. Of course, our hearts go out to everyone in the Ukraine, anybody Ukrainian descent who may have relatives over there who might be suffering through this. And I know, Jackie, I have heard a lot about Ukraine and its wheat growing ability as a country, that it supplies a lot of the wheat around the world. About 10% of the world's exports of wheat come from the Ukraine. But what I didn't realize, I sat in on a webinar the other day, and I did not realize just how much corn comes from the Ukraine as well. Overall, about 17% of the global corn exports come from the Ukraine.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I did not either. So, I mean, again, people keep talking about wheat. I know wheat prices are going up, but it also looks like corn may be impacted by this whole conflict. So, any feedback from folks you've talked to on any of this?
I did talk to some people. I was from Mosaic. I didn't review it right before this video. It was last week when I talked to them, but I know he was saying that in Brazil, he expects it to be a more immediate impact there because they import fertilizer from the Ukraine. But yeah, he was saying no one really knows right now, but prices are definitely not going to go down. But yeah, it was just lack of clarity right now, I think, on that situation. So
Yeah, no, unfortunately, yeah, I have a lot of uncertainty going into the season. I know talking to growers these past 20 some years and ag retailers as well, the one thing they hate more than anything else is uncertainty in the season coming up. So we got boatloads of it, unfortunately, this year. That is
yeah,
unfortunate. So
they have enough uncertainty to deal with the weather, and then all of these other factors. It's just like
all right. Well, Jackie, since you are my guest, and this is the program where we always play with some numbers, it is time for our favorite segment, Fun with Numbers. All right, Jackie. So the number I'm going to hit you with this week, it's not a percentage and it is not a dollar amount. It is just a number. Keep that in mind. And the number is 24. And your clue is the 2022 Commodity Classic trade show. So you
24th.
think 24 might represent.
Is it the 24th annual one?
Oh, I'm sorry, Jackie. No.
I
No,
have-
actually, Commodity Classic is a little older than that. I think this is actually the 26th year.
Okay.
24, though, if you might remember, the last time we got together for a live Commodity Classic was in February of 2020 in
Mhm.
San Antonio, Texas. So if you do a little quick math in the number of months that have elapsed since that time, you get about a little over 24 months since we were last at a Commodity Classic together. So I'm sorry you did miss it, but yes, and you know, for those folks who go to Commodity Classic, look for Jackie and myself on the show floor. If you need to have interviews with us, set up interviews, send us a quick email. We'll see if we can squeeze you in. I know myself, Jackie, I've got pretty much interviews set up the entire time the show is open, starting on Thursday. I'm pretty sure you're probably the same way.
Oh
correct?
yeah, my email's full right now. I have to go back and get my other times in, but yeah, it's a lot going on, so it'll be fun, I think.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say, great venue. New Orleans is a great venue for any type of an event, and it'll certainly be nice to see these folks. And again, get some market intelligence. I haven't seen if Secretary Tom Vilsack is going to be speaking or not. But normally the Secretary of Agriculture, whoever he is or she is at the time, is normally a speaker at a Commodity Classic. So if Mr. Vilsack is there, we'll get some video and run it here in a future edition of CropLife Retail Week.
Do they not announce that sometimes until like right before, or?
A lot of times when they have the person, the Secretary of Ag, they say invited. So they have him on the schedule as an invited person, which means, you know, he should be there, but always last minute things come up. But sometimes they cannot attend, unfortunately. But we'll see. Again, we'll stay tuned for a future video on that.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess that about do it for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. Thanks for joining us, Jackie, and giving us market intel. And thank you, viewers, for joining us as well. We'll see you again real soon.
Thank you.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below. Your feedback is important to us. We will try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.